Joining me now is Tom Haas. He is the president of Grand Valley State University. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you.
You served with the U.S. Coast Guard?
I did. I'm a retired Coast Guard captain. I started my service right here in the Great Lakes, too, in the summer of 1970, and had 23 years of commissioned service, in addition some civilian service as well.
So how did you transition your service with the U.S. Coast Guard to serving in higher education?
Well, I spent my time on the Great Lakes. Then I worked in Washington, D.C. My expertise is in chemistry and hazardous materials transportation. I then went up to my alma mater, the Coast Guard Academy, and started teaching chemistry and did some coaching. And from there, I transitioned into a permanent commission teaching staff position, and I stayed there for the rest of my military career. Also then continued my educational opportunities that I had through GI Bill and the like, and then retired for the first time in 1996, went to become the vice president of academic affairs in a small school out in Iowa, returned back to the Coast Guard Academy as the chief academic officer, then went on to be the president at State University of New York, and now at Grand Valley for now my 8th year.
So your career with the Coast Guard and everything you did then through education, it really kind of went on a parallel line and helped you transition to what you're doing today.
Absolutely. My academic discipline, being a chemist, but also I really appreciated the role of being an educator. And to see the potential in young people, with adults returning to school, I really have a passion about helping students achieve their potential. And the work of an administrator is in part that, but I'm still in the classroom. I still teach freshman chemistry, and I teach some advanced courses as well.
So talking about veterans who are now stepping out of service and going back into higher education, how would you tell them to help transition into this process, into going back to the university level after coming out of service?
It takes that first step. At Grand Valley, 10 years ago, we had about 50 veterans. Now we have over 500. But it takes that first step to come forward. And it takes the university and sometimes those that are employing our veterans to say, you have potential. Let's see what we can do about connecting you to a community college or to a 4-year institution, both in the private and the public sector. So I think it takes that first step, but many times others have to recognize it in you as well. And once there, Grand Valley State University in particular provides a very, very intentional program of advising, of making sure that the veterans can achieve the GI benefits that they have sacrificed for, and really make that a step along the way to achieve the degree.
You say you've grown your student population of veterans from 50 to 500 now. What have the initiatives been at Grand Valley, and what have you done to actually entice people to come?
Very intentional programming. We have staff and faculty that gather twice a month to look at what the landscape is, what kinds of students are coming to us, what are their stories, and from those stories we can then respond appropriately to the individual students as well as others. So what we're doing is creating an ethos of service to our service members.
So you have these very individual stories and you get them to come to Grand Valley, but then once they're there, how do you ensure the success of the veterans who then enroll in higher ed?
What we do is make sure that they have great advising. They have the opportunity of exercising their benefits. We have a veterans lounge, for instance, both substantively and symbolically. We have veteran groups of students coming together to support one another. We have veterans on our staff and faculty who also are engaging with our students as well. And every single student has his or her own story, and we want to be able to listen to that story and respond and help them stay on track to receive that degree.
You know, and you talk about those individual stories, and transitioning cannot be an easy process. And I think recognizing that brings you one step closer to success, though.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's very difficult. I talked to student veterans just this past week. We had a chance to have breakfast with numbers of our veterans who are students, and that's both at the undergraduate and graduate level.
What were they telling you?
They said it's tough. Many of these individuals were in Afghanistan or Iraq, and that it's tough for them. They still have memories. They have nightmares. And so we have to recognize that that's real to them, and we have to listen. And then we also provide then, through that understanding of the individual, help them to understand that they have great potential as well. And what we're doing too, this was kind of more of a financial incentive, but just this past Monday at breakfast, I announced that Grand Valley was joining the other 14 institutions here in Michigan to offer in-state tuition, no matter what state you're coming from. So at Grand Valley, we have students from 47 states. Many of those might be veterans. Why not? Because it's the right thing to do. Offer them a financial incentive to come to Grand Valley. And at the end of the day, we're very successful because 84% of our graduates who are working right here in Michigan. We're keeping the talent right here.
And that's very important too. Do you hear from other universities who are looking at what you're doing in terms of helping out veterans and saying, gosh, maybe we should get some programs that are more tailored towards them at our university as well? Do you get that kind of feedback or input?
We share the best practice. I'm on a group called Town 2025, and we have both community colleges, four-year institutions, private institutions. We all collaborate together over in the west side of the state. And we do share the best practice with one another so that we can ensure that we're doing the best we can. And then even more importantly is making the connections with the businesses in our region too, because we have veterans who now have a degree that these individuals can go forward and do great things for the industry that they want to put their time and talent towards.
Get them employed and keep them employed right here in Michigan,
Indeed.
Right? All right, Tom Haas, president of Grand Valley State University, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.